the start of the meeting. We do have one more student and parent on their way. They'll be here shortly. So we want to make sure the whole team's here. So just bear with us for a few minutes, please.
There you go. That'll be out of there next. That'll be out of there next month. We figured out a new solution.
slide in when they get here. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. Vice President, call the roll.
Barry, here. Casper. Here. Schlada. Dunlap. Here. Menza.
Item 3.1, CMS Girls Softball Team, undefeated season and Swix champions.
We are pleased to introduce the Central Middle School softball team. We want to congratulate them on being the SWIC Southwest Interscholastic Conference champions, as well as the SWIC Tournament champions. And we're going to invite Coach Jennifer Murdoch to come up and say a few words about your team.
Just want to start with, congratulations. Let's give them a I think our record pretty much speaks for itself on how determined these girls were this season. It's not easy to go into it, going undefeated just in conference, and then having all that pressure put on you, and to keep that going into the tournament, and to come out on top. And there was a couple times against Prairie View and Gerling where we were behind. And it's very easy for middle school students just to let it get to their head, especially as a softball player. I was one once. I know how it goes. You strike out and then you just think you're going to strike out again, you're going to strike again, or you made a mistake. All right, they picked their heads up, they made it through, they came back against Gerling in regular season, and then they blew them out of the water come tournament time. So the hard work, the dedication these girls in, it's unimaginable what they put through. And then I want to thank parents. I know you guys are getting them to my softball practice, then their travel softball practice, then their band lesson, then anything else they're in, and you're always on the road. So thank you, parents, for helping get the girls to practices, getting them to all the games. Carpooling parents, I couldn't thank you enough how much that helped out this year, especially with the bus situation. So thank you again, thank you students, thank you players for being awesome, and congratulations again on your victories.
So we have for every player on the team, we have a District 146 pennant, we have a pen, and we have a certificate with their name on it. So as you're called, please step up and receive that, and our congratulations.
Sarah Agin. And then, Sarah, if you just want to stand, we'll just line them up. Nadia Andresiak. Audrey Bullock. Zoe Bullock. Bella Curtin. Leah Jimenez. Abby Copero. Anna Maruzars. Addison McClure. Jocelyn Monner. Hey, Sarah. Melanie Musser. Lauren Rao. Maddie Summers. And last but not least, Ella Withrow.
We're going to do one group picture with the board. It's going to be a little bit of a tight squeeze. So we've got the board in the back. We get the girls maybe on your knees, and then some girls sitting in front, just so everyone can be seen.
Kneel, 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 kneel.
I need to take you with me every time I go somewhere.
What?
I need to take you with me every time I go
We
somewhere.
have enough school pictures taken. Right. I know how it goes. Here it is. Kneel behind.
Perfect. On three. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. And now it's the parents' turn.
I know the girls are smiling under those masks.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the school board meeting, or if you have other practices or things that you need to get your students to, please feel free. Now would be a good time. What's it say about us? Excellent. Item 4.1, Superintendent's Report.
On behalf of Dr. Stawick, I am pleased to provide the superintendent's report. We do have quite a few items. First, we're going to start with health and safety. On November 22nd, we had our annual ROE visit, which we were very pleased 2 years in a row. We had 0 infractions. We're very proud of Matt and his hard work with his team, and as well as all of the teachers and principals that make sure that we're following all of those safety protocols with the ROE. So great job, team. The next item is our vaccination clinic. We held a vaccination clinic for children ages 5 through 11 on November 13th and on December 4th. We provided 225 doses on November 13th, and 202 doses were given on December 4th. We want to provide a special thanks to our volunteers who supported this event, and we had many staff volunteers. We had parents and students that assisted, as well as a couple board members. So thank you for those that came out, and we appreciate our continued partnership with Jewel Osco. If you'll remember, a few board meetings ago, the board approved the use of an e-learning day in lieu of an emergency day if we needed one for inclement weather. And I want to let everyone know that it is up to date and posted on the website. Administration and principals have discussed this plan, and principals will continue to share the plan in their weekly communications. Schools are prepared to send technology home in the event that we can predict inclement weather. If we are to use an e-learning day, lessons will be shared with families through Seesaw and Schoology. Next month, we're going to have student recognition once again. The board will recognize students who participated in the ILMEA band and ILMEA choir this past month, and it will do that on the January 10th board meeting. On November 11th, we hosted several Veterans Day assemblies in our building. I had the pleasure of observing the one at Cruz, and they did a tremendous job. It was great to welcome back our community into our buildings to celebrate Veterans Day throughout all 5 of our buildings. Next, we want to congratulate and recognize the 48 students that were inducted into the National Junior Honor Society at Central Middle School. These students have maintained a GPA of 3.75 or higher and are exemplary students in the areas of leadership, scholarship, citizenship, character, and service. We also we are very excited and want to announce that we are hosting a number of winter parties and events over the coming week or so as we close up our first semester. The school buildings are actively planning parent and community engagement events, including school parties that are scheduled for December 22nd. Holiday shops, winter stores are offered for families, and also we have some staff appreciation events. So thanks again to all of the buildings for planning those events for our students and families. I also want to provide a COVID-19 update. We have seen some increased positive cases throughout the district following the Thanksgiving break. We did have an outbreak at Cruz that was contained to one classroom through mitigation strategies. We did increase those mitigation strategies. Our test to stay protocols are in place and are effectively keeping students in school. And the district will remain diligent in following health and safety guidelines as deemed by IDPH and the Cook County Department of Public Health. We appreciate the follow-through of all of our families and really appreciate when you monitor their symptoms and keep them home if they're sick. And we also have to offer some condolences. We want to send our sympathies to Angie Mulligan as she's our district instructional technology specialist on the passing of her father. We also want to offer our condolences to Dan Minich. He's a memorial custodian as his father passed as well. We have one celebration this month. Congrats to Amy Pasick and her family on the birth of their son. And that's the conclusion of the superintendent's report. Thank you.
5.1, report from union representatives.
Hi, I'm Eileen Von Borstel, Vice President of the Teachers Union, and very brief report tonight. As Mrs. Avella had mentioned, we've just finished off our Veterans Day celebrations before the Thanksgiving break, and now we're giving up for all the winter holidays, which we celebrate in the schools, and we're preparing for the spelling bee. The district bee will be in February on the 3rd, and we're also getting ready for the math challenge. That'll also be in February, and so after that is held district-wide, the top couple students will go on to the math bowl in May. So there's a lot going on in the buildings, and everybody's getting ready for a nice winter break. That's it.
Thank you. No additional report? Excellent. 6.1, citizens may address the board at this time. As usual, there is a 3-minute limit. We do ask that you introduce yourself. Then you will have 3 minutes to speak. This is not time for a dialogue with the board. This is the time for the public to inform the board of their thinking. We do appreciate everyone being civil and everyone sticking to the time frame. With that being said, if there are citizens to address the board, please come forward.
Janet Gallagher. Sorry, this is thrown together really fast today. People who are COVID crazy are the people who are mask crazy, who will be the people pushing to vaccinate all school-age children, children who have less than a 0.001 chance of dying from COVID. My husband just sent me a thing, 94 children from January 2020 to October 2021 have only died from COVID. So let's line them up and give them experimental mRNA injections, not vaccines, so they can all be human lab rats. And no one knows the outcome of this in years to come. And this is another thing. When I spoke to the superintendent one time at a meeting, he said we were more of a conservative school district. But I am part of a loop of emails from Brian Gartland, and I'm sure you all know who he is, that shows we are teaching CRT and SEL in our schools. So, and then there's stuff still hanging in Central for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who Rick Lloyd, I was at that meeting in August, told Brian Gartland after the meeting, he doesn't know why these are in there. It was probably the old assistant principal who isn't there, and they're still there. These are our kids, our grandkids. It's up to you guys to stop all this. I know you may get funding, you may get other things from the government for doing this, but you have to think of these minds you're affecting for the rest of their life, whether their health with these masks and these injections, and that, oh, we're having holiday parties and whatever. We can't even say Christmas parties anymore. We have to be correct that way, when the reason they're off, the reason they're having this break is because of Christmas. So it's a shame where our society has really gone I'm embarrassed to say that this is where it is. Thank you. My last thing, I'm 66. I have a 0.30 chance of getting COVID or dying from COVID. I'm not taking the vaccine. I'll take my chance. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public comment?
Good evening. My name is Shane Wilson. My son is an 8th grader at Central. I actually had no intention to speak for you this evening. I guess I want to begin by congratulating you on the success of the vaccination clinics that you held. It sounds like that went very well. I want to encourage you to be aware that we're seeing the round of booster shots go around now. Right now, it's up to age 16. I'm hopeful that we will see a round of booster shots for middle school age students, and then eventually we'll be able to get down to the elementary school students again. And I hope that when that time comes, you will have another clinic. You will have more opportunities to promote the opportunity to be vaccinated. I don't come here to argue with anyone. There are, by today's estimate, over 200 million people in the United States of America have received some form of vaccination. That's roughly 60% of the US population. We're not crazy. We're not lunatics. We're not power mad. We're not part of a conspiracy. We actually care about our children very deeply. We want them to be well. We want them to be healthy. I don't think it's a badge of honor to say I refuse to be vaccinated. It's certainly a choice. It's certainly an option you can make, but it's a way of saying that you care more about yourself than you care about your community. This board has an opportunity to represent the most important part of our community, our children. I hope you will keep that in mind. I hope you will continue to move forward with the vaccination efforts you've made. I hope you will continue to look out for the safety of your community, of your neighbors, and your children. Thank you.
Additional public comment? Okay, hearing none. Moving on, 7.1, Financial Audit Report.
Yes, in front, on your table, you have a copy of the audit for the fiscal year 21 that was completed, and I'd like to introduce Kevin Bissell from our auditing firm, and he's going to go over it briefly, with an emphasis on briefly.
Thank you. I'll try to keep that in mind. Thanks for having me here tonight. I'm going to start in the financial statements on pages Roman numerals 1 through 7, which is the letter of transmittal. And that's a letter prepared by management, and it gives a general overview of the district as well as the statements that are following in the rest of the statements there. Pages Roman numeral 10 and 11, wanted to point out these certificates. So these are certificates of excellence in financial reporting, and there's 2 of them from 2 different bodies this year. For the year ended June 30th, 2020, and it's a very nice honor for the district on its financial reporting, so I wanted to make sure the board was aware of that, and the statements for this year will be undergoing to my understanding, the same review process to win the awards again next year. Pages Roman numeral 12 through 14 is the independent auditor's report, and that's really our addition to the financial statements. What it says is that we have audited the financial statements of the district as of June 30th, 2021. The letter goes on to talk about the responsibilities of both management and the auditor. Now, as far as management's responsibilities, management is responsible for the preparation, the fair presentation of the statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. This includes the design and the implementation of internal controls related to the preparation and the presentation of the statements that are free from material misstatement. Now, as far as our responsibility as the auditor, our responsibility is to express opinions on the statements based on our audit. And we conducted our audit in accordance with U.S. generally accepted auditing standards as well as government auditing standards. This requires that we plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the statements are free from material misstatement. This involves performing procedures to obtain audit evidence about amounts and disclosures in the statements. And the procedures selected depend on our judgment and our assessment of risks of material misstatement. During the process, we evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies, estimates, as well as the overall presentation of the statements.
Page Roman numeral 13 is our opinion, and what it says is that, in our opinion, the financial statements of the district are presented fairly in all material respects at June 30th, 2021, in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. I'm going to go ahead and move on now to the management's discussion and analysis on page Roman numeral 15. The MD&A, as it's called, is unaudited, but it's a really good summary of the year and good information for your review. It explains some of the important information that you're going to see in the statements that follow it. So some of the financial highlights for the year. Assets, deferred outflows exceeded liabilities and deferred inflows by about $42.8 million at June 30th, 2021. Net position increased about $2.5 million during the year. On the fund level, which is what the district operates on a daily basis, governmental funds reported combined fund balance of $38.6 million at year end. This was up slightly from last year by about $20,000. $29.8 million of that is unrestricted and is available for the continuing operations of the district. Page Roman numeral 18 gives a statement of, gives a summary of the assets, liabilities, and deferred amounts of the district for the current and the prior year. And as we can see there, total assets are down about 1% from last year, while liabilities are down about $5.6 million this year. And as I mentioned previously, net position is up about $2.5 million this year. Page Roman numeral 19 shows a table with some of those details about the increase in net position for this year. As we can see there, operating grants and contributions are showing an increase this year. And most of that increase is from the state's share of its pension cost that filters through the district. Expenses were consistent with last year, and the expenses of the district are primarily instructional expenses, which account for approximately 72% of the district's expenses. Page Roman numeral 20 begins some discussion about the fund balances of the district. And again, at year end, there was about $38.6 million of fund balance. And that's again an increase of about $20,000 compared with last year. The district at year end had about $2.2 million of restricted fund balance and about $7 million of fund balance that it had assigned for certain purposes. And at June 30th, the unassigned fund balance of the general fund was $28.3 million. Now, the general fund is the primary operating fund of the district, and the unassigned fund balance can be used for the ongoing operations of the district. Pages Roman numeral 20 and 21 discuss some of the differences in the general fund between the actual amounts and what had been budgeted for the year. Now, excluding the on-behalf amounts received from the state for the pension, actual revenues were about $147,000 less than budgeted. And again, excluding those on-behalf amounts that filter through the district, expenditures were about $1.5 million less than had been anticipated. And part of the reason for that was the switch during the year to the hybrid learning that impacted these amounts and the expenses of the district. Page Roman numeral 22 discusses some of the long-term debt of the district. And at year end, the district had about $43.3 million of long-term liabilities. Again, that was down about $5.6 million this year, primarily related to bond payments that were made according to the set payment schedules. Page 22 also has some discussion of what's anticipated for the coming year and some good information for your review. Now, the statements themselves follow this MD&A, but the MD&A really gives a good overview of that. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to page 13 of the statements, which is where the footnotes begin. The footnotes present some information about the district and the policies of the district, and some good information to read along with the statements themselves. I'm going to point out some of the key footnotes here for your information. Page 24 provides some information about the capital assets of the district, shows the activity of the year in the assets that the district owns as far as additions as well as depreciation for the year. Page 27 shows some more information about those long-term liabilities that I mentioned and gives a little bit more detailed information about those. Bonds payable and related premiums were about $19.7 million at year end. The district had about $1.3 million of pension liabilities and about $22.3 million of other post-employment liabilities at year end. Page 31 provides a table of fund balances at year end. Again, the district had about $38.6 million in total fund balance, 2.2 million of that is restricted for certain purposes, and about 7 million is assigned for certain purposes, the largest of those being transportation-related costs. And again, 28.3 million is unassigned at year-end and available for operations. Now, the rest of the notes are primarily devoted to the TRS, the IMRF, and the post-employment benefit disclosures, which are required to be disclosed along with the district's statements. I'm going to go ahead and move on to page 52. So pages 52 to 64 provide some more information about those pension and OPEB liabilities, as far as the funding levels and how those liabilities are arrived at. What I wanted to mention here is that while the amounts are large, the district's share of those liabilities have all been paid. So anything that the district was on the hook for as of June 30th has been paid. So those liabilities are kind of calculated on a statewide level, and this is the district's portion of those liabilities. The next section of the statements are just more detailed schedules of the information that I've already discussed. Give some comparisons with both the prior year as well as the budget. And again, it's some good information for your analysis. Another section that I wanted to point out begins on pages 111 and goes through 137. And this is the statistical section of the statements, which is a section that's required to be submitted if you apply for that certificate that I mentioned. And this section really gives some good 10-year trend information about the district for your review. Gives some other good information about the district as far as revenues, demographics, and other operating information of the district. So again, some very good information contained in that section for your information. The last part of the statements is the single audit, which begins on page 138 and goes through the end of the statements. And that's the part of the audit that is required when you have a certain level of spending of federal funds that come in for the year. So once you surpass a certain threshold, this audit is required. And so this provides the results of that audit that we conducted along with the financial audit. So that really, in a nutshell, is the statement. There's another letter that we issued along with the statements, but before I move on to that, I wanted to see if there were any questions about the statements. So the next letter that I wanted to talk about is what we call our audit conclusion letter. And it's just really a summary of how we thought the audit went, key matters for your information, and something that we issue along with the statement. So just a couple things I wanted to mention here very quickly. From our standpoint, the financial statements and the disclosures that we talked about are neutral, consistent, and clear. We encountered no difficulties in dealing with management while performing and completing our audit, and there were no disagreements that arose during the course of the audit. So from our standpoint, we felt the audit went very well. We wanted to thank Jeff and all of his staff for providing the information to us in a very timely manner, very organized and complete. And again, wanted to say thanks for helping us during the process. Are there any questions about this letter or, again, about any of the statements? No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, thank you.
Section 8, action items. Can I have a motion for the consent agenda, please?
I move that we approve items 8.1, 8.2 approval of closed session minutes, 8.3 approval of the destruction of closed session tapes, 8.4 approval of financial items, and 8.5 approval of personnel items.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vice President, call the roll.
Barry, yes. Casper?
Yes.
Shalata? Yes. Dunlap?
Yes.
Nenza?
Yes. 8.6, approval of resolution authorizing final aggregate tax levy for the year 2021.
Yes, it is tax levy time, and as we've been talking about for a while, the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, which is our limit of how much we can receive from one year to the next, is 1.4% for this time frame. So we're asking for slightly more than that, but it's gonna get limited to the 1.4%. So that's the resolution that you have in front of you tonight.
Any board questions? Is there a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing final aggregate tax levy for the year 2021 by the Board of Education of Community Consolidated School District 146, Cook County, State of Illinois, as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vice President, call the roll.
Barry, yes. Casper?
Yes.
Shalata?
Yes.
Dunlap?
Yes.
Nenza?
Yes. 8.7, approval of resolution authorizing reduction of certain fund levies for the 2021 levy year.
All right, so going along with the levy, because we're asking for more than the 1.4%, we have to tell the county clerk where to take the reduction to get us back down to 1.4. So the resolution is just taking it all out of the ed fund. That's kind of the fund that fluctuates the most. So that's the resolution.
Any board questions? Is there a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing the reduction of certain fund levies for the 2021 levy year as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vice President, call the roll.
Barry, yes. Casper?
Yes.
Shalata?
Yes.
Dunlap?
Yes.
Nenza?
Yes. 8.8, the next agenda item for the board is a public hearing to receive public comments on the proposal to sell not to exceed $2.5 million working cash fund bonds for the purpose of increasing the working cash fund of the district, and all persons desiring to be heard will have an opportunity to present written or oral testimony with respect thereto. The president opened discussion, explained the reasons for the proposed issuance of the bonds were as follows.
Yes, we are issuing bonds. We have bonds rolling off, and we're going to be replacing them with a lower amount of bonds, up to 2.5 million. And the purpose of this is to fund the renovations that we recently did at Fierick and Cruz. We've done renovations the past 2 summers in about this amount. Normally, bonds are issued in advance to fund work, but this time, just based on the timing of bonds rolling off, we did the work first, and now we're reimbursing ourselves for these capital projects that we did.
Any comments from the board? Is there any written testimony received? Angela?
No.
None.
It should be noted, we've been working on this since the renovation started. This was
For several
always part of the
years,
plan.
yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
Cash reserves
correct.
to pay for it up front.
Is there any public comment? Hearing none. All persons desiring to be heard have been given an opportunity to present oral and written testimony with respect to the proposed issuance of the bonds. Can I have a motion, please?
I move that we allow the issuance of working cash fund bonds in the amount of $2.5 million as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Okay, Vice President, call the roll.
Barry, yes. Casper?
Yes.
Shalata?
Yes.
Dunlap?
Yes.
Nenza?
Yes. 9.1, communications correspondence.
I have a note, from the Fulton family. Dear District 146 School Board and Administration, thank you for the fabulous pizza and salad luncheon in recognition of American Education Week. It was much enjoyed and appreciated. And then I have another thank you note from, thanks from the memorial staff, just a note to say thanks so much. And this is signed by all of the staff.
I have a sincere appreciation for dear employees of School District 146. Thank you so much for your thoughts and prayers during this difficult time. Your expression of sympathy was greatly appreciated. Carol Lorenzen and family. And then I also have a thank you, a very big thank you from all of us. We enjoyed the pizza and salad we provided for lunch for the school staff.
Yeah, thank you for the wonderful lunch for American Education Week. We appreciate you, the staff and faculty of CMS. And I have an email from Brooke Fundis. What a nice gesture. Lunch was delicious. Please pass along my gratitude to our wonderful School Board of Education. Editorial emphasis.
What?
I have a note from FERC. On behalf of our FERC staff, a huge thanks for the fantastic lunch on November 18th in honor of American Education Week. It is always such a treat to not have to think about lunch for a day. It was much appreciated by all our staff. Thank you for all you do and your continued support of our schools. Happy holidays. And I have a note from Angie Mulligan. Thank you for the beautiful flowers.
Excellent. Can I have a motion to go into closed session, please?
I move that we go into closed session for a school disciplinary and personnel matter.
Second?
And there's one more.
We have time to
Yeah, just briefly, yeah.
placement of individual students in special education programs.
Is there a second? Vice President, call the roll.
Barry, yes. Casper?
Yes.
Shalata?
Yes.
Dunlap?
Yes.
Menza?
Yes. There will be no action following closed session.